Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys 9 makeup tricks that nobody has ever told you about. This is super exciting because the last video I did a get ready with me with spring makeup, and I did a couple of tips here and there as I was putting on my face, and a lot of you guys really loved the tips. So I figured that I would do a dedicated video on tricks that I've learned, making the process a lot easier, and just tips to help me feel more flawless, more pretty, more beautiful as I have fun putting my makeup on. So the first trick is something that I do think more so appeals to hooded eyes or hooded lids. As you can tell, I have hooded lids myself, so when it comes to applying eyeshadow, I can't apply it the same way that other people with other eye shapes can. So one thing that I think we all have a tendency of doing is when we're applying our eyeshadow, we like to lift up our eyebrows. Of course, it opens up the eyelid space so that it gives you a lot of room to work. However, for hooded eyes or hooded lids, you really need to consider how the finished look is going to look. So as you work with the shadow, make sure that you are actually relaxing your face fully downward. This is something that for some reason took me a while to get, because I would always just apply my eyeshadow while having my eyebrows raised, and then as my eyebrows would come down and I was done my look, it either was completely hidden underneath the lid or it just looked uneven and just really weird. As you can see here, I'm absolutely blending ever so lightly with my eyes fully relaxed. Super, super important, especially for this eye shape. Once I learned this trick, my eyeshadow game went from a 5 to a 9 at least. Number 2 is to use a smaller brush when it comes to detailed work, such as adding depth to your eyeshadow. Now, for some reason, this was also something that I never really naturally thought to do, so I was using the same size brush to do all over the lid like I did with the outer edge of the lid. And once I used a smaller brush, this was a game changer. So as you can see here, I'm really placing that darker shadow at the outer edge of the eye, and the fact that my brush head is so small compared to the overall blending brush that I used prior is literally the reason why this smoking out shade doesn't look too sloppy, doesn't look like too much. I'm placing it purposely where I want, and even with myself with my hooded lids, I find that, the smaller the head, I can kind of go above the crease and below the crease, and that just helps me make sure that everything is even. I can connect the two together. I'm not overcompensating by putting so much smoke shade all over my lid, widening out the lid too much where it looks kind of weird on my eyes. Tip number 3 is one that's kind of untalked about, in my opinion. This is one that nobody has told you, pretty sure. What happens if you put too much of a dark pigment on your eyeshadow and it's too harsh of a line? Now for me, I've learned that using a translucent powder or using a powder that is the exact same tone as your skin helps to really blur this out and soften the pigment that you put too much of on your lid. So as you can see here, I've got my pressed powder. I'm placing it on the lid and really buffing out very gently. Make sure that you're doing a couple layers if you've really screwed this up, but keep in mind that the darker the pigment, the harder it's going to be to erase. So if you're able to, still make sure that you are slowly working up that darker pigment, and especially if you're using like bright color and stuff like that, I would be very light-handed as you build. Here's another one that I feel like when you do your makeup professionally by an artist, it's a bit different than when you do it at your house on yourself. And tip number 4 is to actually open your eye when you're doing eyeliner. In particular, this is liquid liner. So for myself, liquid liner and me are BFF. I use it all the time. I absolutely love it. How I've mastered this is I made sure that my eye remained open as I applied the liquid liner. When you're getting your makeup done professionally, you often have your eyes closed. The eyelid is not quite circular when it's closed, at least not for my eye shape. If I'm doing my eyeliner with my eyes closed, you can see it's going to come off quite straight versus having that really nice natural curve, which is following the upper lid when the eye is open. For myself, it is a much better look to practice with your eyes open. You can also control how thick that line is going to be. I do find that when your eyes are closed, you do tend to go a bit thicker than you think you want, and it just doesn't look quite natural like how you're probably wanting it to look. Let's talk about when you are putting on mascara and your look is coming together. You've got your eyeshadow, your eyeliner on, and everything is looking so nice. Then you bump your arm and all of a sudden there's mascara on your brow bone or on your eyeshadow. Everything is ruined. Tip number 4 is to fully wait until your mascara is dry. Do not touch it when it is wet. This is something that I have learned myself. If you do touch it when it's wet, you will have to redo your shadow. Once your mascara is fully dry, and I like to wait a good 5 minutes for this at least. When it becomes dry, it's going to flake off like nothing. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm just lightly removing it with a Q-tip here. You can also lightly remove it with a brush, or you can just take your finger and even just gently sweep it away. Make sure that it's fully dry because it changes the composition of the formula. It's no longer quite that slip to it, so it's not going to smear all over the eye once you've had it fully set. Here is also an underrated trick that I feel like a lot of people don't always know about, and that is doing bottom mascara as eyeliner. Now, I think a big mistake that a lot of women make is they do quite heavy under eyeliner, and I feel like it really drags the eyes down. All I like to do is when I apply my mascara, I'm just not careful with it. So as you can see, if you're not careful, you're going to inevitably hit your skin. This is not the end result, trust me. Take a Q-tip and some makeup remover, and all you have to do is lightly dip the Q-tip in and then clean up underneath your bottom lash. You can leave as much of that line or pseudo line that you've made when you were a little bit messy with applying your bottom mascara as you want. But as you can see, it's very defined and it doesn't counterbalance the top eyeliner that we've already done. So it keeps the eyes looking lifted, looking youthful. This is a trick that a lot of you guys appreciated when I shared it in my other video. And that is when you're applying your base makeup, don't do your forehead until last. Now for myself, I'm quite expressive when I'm putting on my makeup. My eyebrows are going up and down, especially when you're putting on mascara or whatever. And for myself, I'm 32 now, so I feel like I'm starting to get some minor creasing developing in my forehead. Tons of foundations out there that claim to blur lines and cover lines and things like that. But if you're actually buffing in your base product in your forehead first, it's going to collect much easier in those wrinkles compared to if you did your forehead last while the rest of your face has already been done. It's not going to emphasize your lines as much, and that is something that I do think we're all kind of aiming for when putting on makeup in the first place. Number 8 is a trick that I feel like quite a bit of us kind of go through, especially now that a lot of stores are closed and a lot of us are shopping online. I know that I am roughly a light to medium neutral, depending on the foundation that I am picking. If I am trying a new line out and I'm looking online and I order a shade that I think is my match, and then it comes in the mail and it's definitely not, do not throw out that foundation. You don't even necessarily have to return it because it depends on how far off you were when it comes to shade matching. I like to keep it in my storage so that I have a product to use when I decide to use self-tan. If your product turns your face orange, obviously this trick isn't going to work, but as you can see here, I was a little bit off when I was selecting my YSL foundation shade. The trick is to never waste this product, even if you mess up a little bit. You can always repurpose it to when your skin may be a little bit deeper, i.e. when you've tanned. This has saved me a lot of money when I made mistakes in the past and thought to myself quickly, well, I'm never gonna wear this. In fact, once my face is tan, it worked out perfect. Now, as you can see by the thumbnail, tip number 9 is so funny. It is so outrageous. It is so unbelievably strange. You must do this next tip by yourself. I cannot stress that enough. If you do this tip, and you are in public, you will get stares, you will have people looking at you and wondering if something is wrong. So avoid ruining your makeup when you have an itch by itching it with your hair, not your finger. There are a lot of us that, you know, we've worn our makeup all day and we totally forget that we have the makeup on and we get an itch and we just go full force right into scratching your face. That is not good because you do get your makeup all messed up afterwards and we don't want that. My hair is so long, you guys, that I actually discovered this by accident. It blew into my face one time when my face was actually itching and it actually cured the itch. So now what I do is I take a little bit of my hair and I make sure I'm about an inch or two from the bottom and I use it like a makeup brush. To this day, this is what I do if my face becomes itchy at any point, and it has saved my makeup look and still made it look flawless for a lot longer. What do you guys think of these tips? Do share your best makeup tip down below. I would love to know what tips and tricks you've learned throughout the years. And until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys!